This is the e-learning podcast, episode number 36.
When we just began, we couldn't find a tool that will be able to find cases of plagiarism where someone really changed the text a bit, paraphrased it to a point where it's still very obvious that someone took your text. Yet if you're running it through plagiarism detection, it seems as if it's completely original. So AI allows you to do exactly that, because when you're reading a text as a human being and you're understanding, okay, even though this word has been changed, this sentence, someone played with it a bit, it's still pretty obvious to me that someone used this text and it's not original. This is exactly what AI in the plagiarism detection world can do.
Welcome to the e-learning podcast from LMSpulse.com. My name's Stephen Laddick, and I'm the director at LMS Pulse. My guest for today is Alon Yamin, who is the founder of Copyleaks. What started as a general purpose solution for plagiarism detection suddenly has found a serious niche in the education space. Today, with integrations available for all the major LMS out there, Copyleaks is a staple among educational users, but increasingly expanding into corporate, government, and other surprising groups looking to make the most of its detection algorithms. In this somewhat provocative conversation, we talk about why plagiarism is, in a way, an epidemic, and just how widespread a phenomenon it is, or it isn't. We also talk about the role of AI as a way not just to help teachers identify instances of plagiarism, but to raise awareness of social issues of authenticity. We also talk about why being in both the AI and plagiarism industry means to be always on your toes in keeping up with the threats, external and internal. We finally talk about why algos are not only going to get smarter, but so are people, and thus why it makes more sense to think about ways in which algorithms help rather than just surveil students. But before we get started, a quick word from our sponsors.
The e-learning podcast is sponsored by the e-learning Success Summit. Learn from more than 40 experts how to teach, work, and learn online without being overwhelmed. Get your free ticket to the summit at elearningsuccesssummit.com. And LMSpulse.com, your best source for news, information, and resources for e-learning professionals for more than 10 years. Get our free roundup of the week's top news at lmspulse.com.
Hello, Alon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Alon, you are in a room where I cannot tell anything about the weather or where you're staying. So where do we find you today?
So I'm in New York City in this exciting election night.
Oh.
Hopefully it will remain calm outside, so we won't have any interruption to this conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. So we're recording this on November 3rd, 2020, election day. We'll see. We'll see if maybe when it's published in the future, if maybe your building will burn down or I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Maybe this will become more viral than we expect this video. Who knows?
Speaking of virals, as someone in New York City, I've been asking this of everybody on the show. How's your COVID going? I mean, how are things going in your part of the world?
So I think, you know what was the situation in New York? Probably it was very bad a few months ago. I think it's getting better and better. Now schools also opened up, but it's still, 25% of the students are actually going to schools. They have all the different rules for different neighborhoods. So for example, we had issues in specific areas of Brooklyn. So basically for specific neighborhoods, they had specific rules for different aspects. So businesses that are allowed to open or not, schools that are allowed to open there or not, things like that. So far, numbers are still relatively low to what it was before. Hopefully it stays that way.
Nice. Well, how has it affected your business? Your business is Copyleaks. And before you tell us about, what the last 6 or 7 months have been like, tell us about what is Copyleaks? What do you do? Why were you founded? Where did it come from?
Yeah, so I actually founded Copyleaks around 5 years ago together with my co-founder, Jonathan. We started it in Israel. This is the accent that you're hearing now. Yeah. So we actually didn't start from the education space. Copyleaks started from an issue that we experienced ourselves. So actually, Jonathan, my co-founder, they have a family business, and they had a lot of content on the website that promoted this business. And they found out that they are really going down and deteriorating on Google ranking, and they couldn't figure out why. And then they saw that basically competitors are taking their content, plagiarizing it, and you get penalized by Google, by Bing, by all these search engines.
Sure, by being copied, right? Mm-hmm.
So it started from there. So we said, okay, let's find a solution that will allow us in an ongoing basis to track it. The issue was that it wasn't just like people that copied a one-to-one type of plagiarism, but also they changed the word a bit, played with it, and we couldn't find a solution that will cover that. And we both came from AI background. We were programmers for more than 6 years, the two of us working with text analyzing technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we said, okay, maybe there is an opportunity here to solve this solution in a bit of a smarter way. In the end, we're dealing with textual content here. And this is where we started. And then we drifted towards the education market. We understood that we can really help there. We better understood the issues that both professors and students are experiencing once they're either writing assignment or academic works, or also reviewing them and grading them. So this is where we started from. So we created Copyleaks, which is focused on basically AI-based assessment solutions for plagiarism detection, for automatic grading. We started from plagiarism detection, but we keep expanding to more and more area in the education space, all based on the core technology that we have that is around really analyzing text, analyzing the meaning, and detecting originality.
So what was the aha moment when, you were working for a business, clearly, and that's where you generated your solution? What was the aha moment for you to say, wow, the education sector could probably use this? Was there somebody was there a professor? Was there a teacher? Was it like, how did you make that discovery?
So it actually just kind of happened naturally. We had a website. It wasn't focused on education at all. We really marketed it as a solution for content creators, for search engine optimization agencies, for anyone in the content market. And by the way, we're still working with these people now. And then we found out that a lot of people from the education world are starting to go on our website using our tools, to a point where I forgot which platform was it, but one of the big e-learning platforms online, or for e-learning news online, posted about us. And then we get tons of new traffic from education focused users. And we said, okay, maybe there is something interesting here. And then we got to learn more about the market, got to learn more about the challenges that they are experiencing. And this was probably 4 years ago. And since then, we are very much focused on the education space and developing tools to help really teachers, students, professors, researchers. Yeah.
Sure. So I've seen on your site, you definitely have some really quick tools that people could use. Like a professor could literally copy paste text into a search box, or an input box, and, click, discover and see, have your algorithm or have your engine, look at it. So a student could do the same thing. What are the different avenues? So if I'm a university, or if I'm a school or whatever, tell us, how do we integrate with you, or how could I get started with Copyleaks? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so we have different solutions for different really user types. Our main users are exactly like you said, academic institutions, schools, universities. With them, we are working in multiple ways. First and foremost, we're integrated with all the big learning management systems that they're already working with, the Canvas, Blackboards of the world, and so on. So they can just use us from within those environments. We're completely integrated with them. It's a very smooth integration, part of their normal processes. We're just being added to those. And then they can scan for plagiarism and get our full report with all the information that we provide through those platforms. So that's one way of doing it. We also have our own standalone solution in case an institution is interested in working with us directly. This is more relevant to the smaller institutions. We're also working worldwide. So institutions in specific parts of the world where learning management systems are maybe less popular are usually using this type of a solution. And lastly, and this is really one of our main focuses is our API, which is an interface that we basically expose to any platform, if it's a learning management system, e-learning solutions, writing tools, to just take our technology, integrate it with their own solutions, with their own platforms, and offer it to their customers. So a lot of universities are actually, and academic institutions are actually using our tools without even being aware that it's us in the background, because they are using tools of different learning management systems or e-learning solutions that integrated us, and we're offering it as a white labeled solution. So many times we're just the engine in the background.
Nice. How do you then, okay, so AI, so many, we've been hearing this term for years now. It's becoming more and more popular. There's, oh my God, AI is going to take over the world and kill us all. Or there's people who are super, I mean, it's in cars, they drive themselves. Take us through, like, give us just a little brief introduction to how AI is working with your text search, and then take me to why that's a better way to do originality detection other than other methods.
Yeah, so this was actually our starting point. Like I mentioned, when we just began, we couldn't find a tool that will be able to find cases of plagiarism where someone really changed the text a bit, paraphrased it to a point where it's still very obvious that someone took your text. Yet if you're running it through plagiarism detection, it seems as if it's completely original. So AI allows you to do exactly that, because when you're reading a text as a human being and you're understanding, okay, even though this word has been changed, or this sentence, someone played with it a bit, it's still pretty obvious to me that someone used this text and it's not original. This is exactly what AI in the plagiarism detection world can do. And in our report, you'll see the usual one-to-one identical detection that you'll get with other plagiarism detectors, but also two other layers of similarities that we're able to identify. The first one is what we call similar content. So imagine someone is changing the word slow to slowly, or small changes like this in the text. And the second one, we call it related meaning, which is basically paraphrased text. So you're using different words to state very, very similar idea. Here we look also at the sentence structure, the words that you're using, things like that. And in our report, you'll see all these different layers of similarities. So you'll know exactly what's the situation in the specific text. Is it original? Is it not? If someone played with it or not. We even took it one step further, and we added advanced features. So for example, cheat detection. So, a lot of, not only students, by the way, anyone who's dealing with content online, people are very creative in how to, change the text in a way where plagiarism detectors will not be able to find it. So you have all these different methods. So for example, you can, instead of having spaces, you can have letters that are in white color. So no one sees them. You're running it through the plagiarism detection, looks as if it's original. You can change the letters to like a different, instead of like Latin letters that look exactly the same, just in a different language. So again, all these things are changing the results when you're running it through a regular plagiarism detector. And these are the type of things that we're doing in our detectors to kind of take it to the next step.
Wow. So how do you differentiate between someone, using a citation or a quotation in a paper? Like obviously there's lots of university students out there, and they're supposed to either quote or paraphrase, but then properly cite. Like, how does that work with your engine, and how does it show up in your report?
Yeah, so we're actually able to identify if this is a regular citation or regular quotation that is allowed or not. We are offering also an option in our report to ignore quotations and citations in the report. So we're able to identify it and then ignore it if needed or not. This is all being done also through AI, being able to identify how a quotation look like, because it's not always so simple as something that is within quotations, but also in academic writing, it can appear in different ways. So we're able to cover it, identify it, and then ignore it in the report. So this is all part of the scan in the report.
So tough question for you. I hope it's not a curveball. What's your biggest challenge with your AI engine or with the Copyleaks system? Like, what are the how are people who are plagiarizing getting smarter? We hear all the time in this sector about students who are outsourcing their papers to low cost workers in different parts of the world, or purchasing papers from people who are that, then they give them to 50 or 60 different people. What are your biggest challenges as an originality detection company?
I mean, it never ends. Like you said, it's a cat and mouse game. It never ends. People get more and more creative, like I mentioned. So the challenge is really to keep up with everything that is happening and make sure that we're able to cover all these use cases. So just to give you an example, we saw, and from our relationship with academic institutions, with schools that we're working with, that plagiarism in code is becoming a real issue for computer science departments.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we added what we call Copyleaks, which is completely part of our comprehensive solution. Another component that allows you to scan code for plagiarism as well. So now if a student submit work code in C# or in C++ or any other programming language, we'll also scan it for plagiarism and identify plagiarism there as well. So we keep adding more and more capabilities to make sure that we're covering all the cases. But in the end, it's never 100%. We're always busy with what's the next feature that we can provide, not only to identify plagiarism, but also help the students in the writing process. In the end, you have a lot of cases where students are not even aware of the fact that they're plagiarizing while they're writing. We have a lot of writing tools that integrated our API in order to do exactly that, help students in the writing process, offer live recommendations. Hey, this
How
part
does
of
that work? Does that, like, if I'm like using Microsoft Word, or if I'm using Google Docs or some, like, what kind of platforms would I look to help that? And like, would it just like appear as a bubble on the side as I'm typing, or what?
Yeah, so depends on the integrations. We offer integration with Google Docs and with Office 365, but we also have third parties that took our API. Again, it's an open API, so anyone can just take it and integrate it with their own solutions, and then offer it in whatever way they'd like. So a lot of writing tools just took it, and then while the student is typing or before he's about to submit something, they are authenticating the assignment, making sure that even by mistake, quotations are not missing, or someone didn't paraphrase something enough to make it really their own. So it's really a powerful tool that even live can offer recommendations. So it doesn't have to come from the, the negative aspect of, okay, let's find someone cheating right now, but also let's help students better understand how important is originality, academic integrity, and help them in the writing process. And this is why, by the way, our tool is also open to students. Students are able to go on our platform, use it, experience it, and authenticate themselves. And it's very important because we are, like I said, also checking for similarities in paraphrased content. If we're saying that content is original, it's basically someone really, even if the student used content from other sources, the student changed it enough to make it really their own content. So this is why I think it's very important to keep the tool open to students, and we're promoting it and we're offering it for free to a point to students, so they'll be able to experience it and just have like a better writing experience.
That's fantastic. I wish, I come from the Stone Age. So, I got my first laptop, like my third year in college. So this would have been really helpful for me. Take me to the next step. You said that you, in the beginning, when we were just kicking off, that you have an AI grader as well. What does that mean? I mean, this is going to be a huge thing for professors. I mean, grading and, that whole back end of receiving assignments from students and then going through that process. Walk me through that. What does that look like?
Yeah, so here we really wanted to close the cycle of assessment. We're starting with plagiarism detection, and then the next step for teachers, for anyone who's grading these assignments, is really scoring them. So we wanted to close the cycle and help also on this. What we did, we developed an AI grader that helps you where you need the help most, which is with open-ended questions. If it's multiple question answers type of a question, this is pretty simple to do. But if it's an open-ended answer where you have a page long of an essay to score, this is a bit more complicated, a bit more time-consuming, and this is where we can really help. Our current solution is focused on standardized exams that are being given in very high volume. So state exams, bar exams, any type of an exam that is being given like for tens of thousands of students at once. And the way it works is that you as the institution needs to provide us with a few hundreds of exams that are already graded. Our AI algorithms are then able to understand the grading process, why student A got C for this exam and student B got A, and so on, understanding kind of what was the grading process. And then we're able to imitate it ourselves using our artificial intelligence technology. And once we have those few hundreds of exams that we were able to analyze using our technology, we're able to grade millions of the same exams in a matter of minutes in a very, very accurate and consistent way, which is completely unbiased. This is an automatic process, so you don't have any bias like, what's the what type of a student is it, the demographic of the student, and so on. So a lot of important things that we're saving in the process. So I think this is a much newer solutions for us. We're seeing the growth there. We're seeing that the market is headed that way. And it takes time also for the market to understand the opportunities here, because teachers are so
just gonna say, I can hear every professor in the world right now going, wait a second, how's this even possible? Like, take me down that road. Like, what does that output look like? Is it here's the test and then here's a report saying, it's in a bandwidth of, 75 to 80% because X, Y, and Z. Like, what does that report look like, and how does it generate?
Yeah, so it's all based on, again, the initial data. So if we're seeing that from the first hundreds of exams that are already graded, that the graders really put emphasis on grammar, for example, or the content and the meaning itself, we're looking at what is really important for the human graders and then imitating ourselves. In the end, what you'll get from us is the grade. And now we're adding more and more components to that. For example, this sentence specifically, the year of the war was 1965 instead of 1967, for example. This sentence, the grammar is not right, and so on. So a lot of different places we can take it to. The main thing is that it really works in very, very high scales, to a point where with standardized exams, the process is usually where you have more than one grader to one exam. So a lot of ministries of education in the world and kind of bigger testing organizations, when it's a very important exam, you have at least 2 or 3 human graders that are grading each exams. So imagine you're using a tool like ours, even to save just the second or the third human grader, you're already saving so much time, so much resources. So I think this is where this market will start going to, and we'll see more and more of these type of technologies in the grading area. I think we're already seeing it in the more kind of the simple areas where we are helping the human grader in the grading process, but what we're doing is basically almost replacing the human grader. So I think that's really the next step, or at least authenticating whatever the human grader is doing.
Yeah, I had no idea that they had like a 2 or 3 person, system, and like the ACT and the SAT and the United States and these kinds of things. That's really interesting to know. What does this plug then, if you want to create, bring that cycle back, does this then plug back into the LMS somehow and actually plug back into the gradebook, in like most popular LMSs, or is that's a vision down the line, or what?
Yeah, so at this point, it's not integrated with the LMSs because, again, it's less relevant for the universities and more relevant to the bigger organizations where it's really high volume standardized exams. So in a state level or bar exams, things like that. So we're offering it currently as an API that can be integrated to their own solutions. So whatever processes you have in the background, you're able to integrate it with them. And then the whole process is completely automatic. Later on, we'll probably take it also to other areas. We'll expand it. We always keep adding more and more capabilities on the plagiarism detection side, as well as the grading side.
Well, that's my next question. Like, what do you see coming down the pipe? There's text analysis is not going away. I mean, we still have a massive amount of text, and more is being added to the interwebs every day. Is this something that would be useful in sort of resume analysis, or like that, like I say, like that first step? And I'm thinking about the other way, where if I'm a graduating college student or a graduating master's student putting my resume together, could you help say, hey, look, these are the different ways that you could format it so that it would work better, or this is what a normal formatting would look like. I don't know, I'm making this up on the spot here. Like, what are some of the other applications that you're looking at, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months out?
Yeah, so there are so many different applications that we are working on already now, because we're offering the API as an open API and any platform can just utilize it for their own specific needs. We have use cases all over the place, and we are also surprised somehow how people are using our API. So I'll give you some examples. We have content companies, news website that are using our solution to authenticate their writers. A lot of them are using third parties writers, and you'd be surprised, but they're paying money for original content for this writer to produce. And in many cases, it's not as original as you would think. Then, of course, those news outlets, those media companies are posting it on their websites, and they have a serious issue. So we have that use case. We're helping them identifying that. We are working with a lot of companies that are interested also in comparing their own internal documents. So we have companies with millions of documents, and they're interested in identifying duplications. So we can do that as well. We are working with even governments on this type of use cases. So really the use cases are all over the place. And this is why we also put a lot of emphasis on privacy, because we want everyone with any type of content to be able to do this analysis and access our solutions. So we also offer private database that you are able to use to make sure that your content is not being shared with anyone else. And different other privacy measures that we're taking to make sure that really your content is safe, and we're able to really help in every different use case.
That's what you kind of stole my thunder there. That was my next question about privacy. So if I've got a new patent, if I've got a process in a lab that I'm working on, if I've got a piece of code, maybe I'm writing the next Facebook or something like that. How, you said you can do a walled garden around the content, or what are the other different options that you provide for, privacy, security, and just making sure like identity and those kinds of things aren't leaked out?
Yeah, so our tool can be used also to identify copyright infringement, to make sure that you know the distribution of your IP. The report that we're generating can be used as an evidence for anyone infringing your content as well. So we're providing all the information in a way where it's very clear what's the distribution of the text, what's the percentage of the text that has been taken, what type of similarities, like I mentioned, is it as an identical copy that was done? Is it just a paraphrased content? All this information is provided, and we're making sure that you're able to really know the distribution of the content and protect your IP in that way. So yeah, we have the education side, which is, again, our main focus. We are working with academic institutions, educational platforms, and so on. But we're working a lot with also businesses, with content creators, with publishers, to make sure that they're really securing their IP and their intellect, and making sure that they're able to identify copyright infringement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Final question for you. You live and breathe AI all day. What other things that you are looking down, it's, the virtuosity of the world is only getting deeper. We're only becoming more and more Zoom conversations, it seems like, as the universe goes on. If you look out in your crystal ball again, like a year from now, what are you most excited about? Is there a shiny new object you really are excited about, or that you could point other people to?
So for us as a company, we keep adding more and more capabilities and expanding in the education space. Like I mentioned, we started from the plagiarism detection side of things. We expanded to AI grading. And for us in the next year, for sure, we'll add more and more capabilities to expand those two main areas. So just to give you some examples, we're looking now at adding more grading capabilities, annotation, fact checks, grammar checks. All of these things we want to be integrated with our solutions, both on the plagiarism detection and the AI grading side. So we'll be basically a one-stop shop for anyone who's looking to assess content in terms of from the education side of things, but also, like we mentioned, all the other use cases as well.
Awesome. How does somebody get signed up? What do I got to do to either bring myself or my institution online with you?
Simply go to our website, copyleaks.com. Over there, you'll see all the information, whether you're an individual interested in scanning one page for plagiarism or a big institution, you'll be able to contact us there. And yeah, happy to see more people coming through this podcast.
Awesome. Alon, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a fascinating conversation. I wish you all the luck, and let's see what happens in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, Steven. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for tuning into today's episode of the eLearning Podcast. If you like what you've learned today in this episode, I encourage you to either follow us or subscribe to us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. And please do share this episode with one or two of your colleagues or friends. Also, I just want to remind you that you can level up your online learning game with all of the information that's available at the eLearning Success Summit. You can get your free ticket at elearningsuccesssummit.com. And finally, you can also stay up to date on everything that's important, all the news and the resources for e-learning professionals at lmspulse.com. Get our free newsletter by just going to lmspulse.com today. Thanks again.